Hi everybody, welcome to another edition of the CrossFit Games Update Show. I'm Sean Woodland with Tommy Marquez and Pat Sherwood. We've had about a week now to sort of digest what has happened with regionals and start looking ahead to games. And after those 3 weekends of this new format, we really had a lot to chew on.
Well, every year we say the level of competition has increased, can't have any holes, so on and so forth. But I think what stood out from this year with changing the open format and whatnot was that we had, more big names that we thought were just shoo-ins not make it, and that kind of made us, take pause.
Right. And coupled with that, there's some athletes that kind of came out of the woodwork, and we're used to seeing it year in and year out, where they kind of step to the forefront, hadn't heard of them before, and they really make a statement by maybe knocking one of these athletes out of the way.
Yeah, and I think that's the big lesson one of the big lessons that we learned is that every year there's these names that we sort of pencil in. There's no guarantee anymore, regardless of who you are. I mean, it's backed up by the fact that, look at the big names that didn't make it back that I know we thought at the beginning of this thing that they were going to be there.
Well, 2 people on the list right there in Leverage and Vobral. One took first place at regionals last year, and to go from first place to not just, bumping a couple slots to not even now making it is a huge swing.
And just from those 4 athletes, we're talking about 16 games appearances that didn't make it back this year. And like for Josh Bridges and some of those other athletes, they've got 10 finishes total between those 16 appearances inside the top 10 at the games. So it's not just athletes that go to the games perennially, they go to the games and they do well on top of that.
And we know all the athletes on that list are fit. I mean, there's no question about that, but why didn't they make it?
Man, I've been racking my head around this, and I think anytime you have a set of data or numbers, you can fish through it afterwards and come up with anything that you want. But I think it comes into what do we always say is a key element of doing well, if not winning in CrossFit, and that is actually not winning, but just doing extremely consistent over and over again. And I think with the changes to the open, I'm trying to word this in a way that's not going to just immediately alienate and infuriate a bunch of people, but let's be honest, making it to regionals in the years previous was an incredible accomplishment. If you finished dead last at regionals, you were a tremendous athlete, hands down. But now, shifting the numbers to just, 20 from 2 separate regions going to the regional, now even in the first heat, which would historically be one of the least competitive heats at regionals, you have incredible athletes in every single solitary heat that now, if a big name athlete, has a couple misses over the weekend that he used to be able to get away with, well, now some previous athletes have just messed up the point standing, so to speak, that what used to be, I had a couple bad events, but that's okay, can make it up over here. We're kind of learning you can't do that.
And we saw that with like Bridges and Christy Atkins, for example. Both of them had a worse finish last year at regionals of 14th. This year, Bridges had a 25th. Christy had a 27th and a 26th. So just that slip up where it may have knocked you down 10 points, maybe 10, 15 placings tops with that more stricter competition, a lot better athletes at regionals. Now that puts you at 25th, 30th, maybe even outside of the top 30. And that could be, the death sentence for you if you want to go to the games.
And with the new regional format and with the increased talent pool, it makes it even more impressive when you have these athletes who are going on their 4th straight or possibly more trip to the games here. And the list is on the women's side is small. I mean, Becca Voigt, she's gone to 8. But only 6 women on that list who have been to 4 straight or more.
4 straight or more, given the new format that has just recently come in. And that list, I actually don't know whether I think that list will grow as some of the younger athletes come in, and will they have a multiple 4, 5, 6-year career? Or, after they've been in a couple years, will the next person that started at 10 years old rolls in and knocks them out? I think that's going to be a very, very exclusive list as the years continue.
And so exclusive, we're talking like on the men's side, we're excluding out some of the past champions. Like you see some of the athletes here like Ben Smith, Neil Maddox, like Rob Forte, they're spread out all across the globe, and even athletes like Graham Holmberg, slip up 1 year and you don't make it. How many times do you think about this in perspective? How many times in your life does something go just right for 4 years straight? They're talking training, day in, day out, nutrition, health, anything from getting sick the week before regionals. Things don't necessarily always fall into place like that. So when it does happen for these athletes, it's phenomenal.
Making it to the games once, incredible. Twice, incredible. Yeah, you start to talk about 4 years when, over the course of 4 years, how many different workouts have been programmed, different time domains, different loadings, different brand new things they threw at these athletes, last second at the games. And so that kind of body of work boggles the mind. And then you put that into perspective with Becca Voigt going not just 4, but 8, qualifying 8 times. I mean, you want to find out what she's doing.
Well, and then you have athletes like Ben Smith, and he made it, finished 4th, but he's a guy who shows up, doesn't really practice the regional events, and is able to qualify. That is coming to an end, correct?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely necessary that you have to practice now. Ben may have gotten by and gotten 4th, you know, qualified. Similar story with Cara Webb this year, who didn't practice it. But at least going forward now with this new regional format and how competitive it is, at least practicing these workouts gives you a bearing of sorts to kind of provide some strategy, some pacing. Heck, how you're going to recovery, like how you're going to plan your recovery for these workouts. In the very least, if you don't PR or set some new standards for yourself, at least you build a contingency plan around what the stimulus may be that you may not have known before.
Somebody like Ben Smith that rolls in stone cold, God bless him.
Yeah.
And I think that prepares him very well for what he'll face at the games when Dave Castro just throws something at you and you can't prepare at all, and the people that are used to excelling in that environment will inevitably rise to the top. But I think he's going to be a bit of a dinosaur in years coming out. And also, getting back to that other point, if there's an increased level of competition to even make it to regionals, that now from Heat 1 to Heat 4, anyone could set an event record. Well, now if you didn't practice these workouts and try to shave as much time off, you're doing yourself a huge disservice.
And this is the first year. We've always seen rookies pop up who've been impressive, but I think this is really the first year where we saw en masse this new breed of athlete, men and women who have now been doing this for, since they were 16, 17 years old. They've been doing it for a long time and showing now what they can do when they get on a competition setting.
Yeah, when you look at athletes like Maddie Myers and maybe Brooke Wells, some athletes who are starting to grow up in the sport, you think back to where most of us who are athletes and spent time practicing and training for sports, think about how many years and hours of training we've put in maybe to playing basketball or soccer or whatever, developing skills, learning the nuances of those games. You take all that time and effort and you now focus it on CrossFit or on training because their parents did it, because their grandparents did it, their family did it, and now you have athletes where the skills like handstand push-ups or muscle-ups or walking on your hands just become second nature, and now they get to just focus on building capacity. These are the athletes that are going to be absolutely dangerous come game time and for the next 5 years running.
People new to the sport, new to CrossFit, don't realize maybe they're seeing the games or regionals for the first time and it's new to them, but CrossFit has been around the methodology for decades and really caught on when we first started launching it on the website, and that was back in 2001. So that was 14 years ago of it kind of going out to the world, and now we're seeing those CrossFit kids that became CrossFit teens, and now, I'm old enough to go to regionals, and I'm old enough to kick your butt, and it's only going to continue.
And we've known for a while that you can no longer just go to your local box and do one workout and then expect to make it to regionals. Those days are long gone. But what you have to do now in order to get to that point has increased pretty much exponentially. I mean, an average day of training for a regional athlete is basically a full-time job.
The chasm between recreational CrossFitter and competitive CrossFitter continues to grow by leaps and bounds. Every athlete that I've had the pleasure of hanging out with trains at a volume that it's a full-time occupation. I mean, 3, 4, 5, 6 workouts a day, depending upon who it is, and they'll spend 90 minutes stretching. I mean, how much? 90 minutes stretching, not even the workout itself. So, I mean, you need to have organized your life, whether it's through sponsorships or, your spouse is helping you with something. But, I mean, the level that it's at these days, it's no joke.
Yeah, and granted, the few athletes that kind of fall outside of that, they're athletes that have been around 5 or 6 years. So they've had the time on the front side of things to be able to put in some time of training and kind of build up their capacity and skills. So it's not just some new athlete that comes in that still has a full-time job that does it. I mean, these are athletes that have been around a long time to be able to do this. So.
And the saying, every second counts, has been around a long time. But that is more true now than ever. And especially when you look at Event 7, there was like 0.2 of a second would separate you by 2 spots on the leaderboard. And that could be the difference between going and staying home.
And it was like that on every event. And I'm thinking, so we had a lot of shorter events at regionals this year. Randy, I mean, when Event 1 came on, and same with Event 7, I was watching it on my computer screen, screaming at some athletes that would, finish Randy or something like that, and then casually jog. And I'm like, that casual jog, if you chose to sprint, could be 4 seconds quicker. And I'm looking at the leaderboard, and you don't know what the heat before you did because every heat is packed. And if you're not treating every second that you're out on the court, you know, with incredible intensity, someone is going to get the best of you.
And I think it kind of kickstarts a new conversation about like the cool stuff we're seeing in terms of programming, because now the room for error is drastically smaller. And you talk about, you know, shooting at a smaller target, one failed rep, you know, one extra shakeout, and it costs you spots. You look at that last workout, people are finishing sub 90 seconds.
Right.
If you miss a rep or a muscle up, that's 9 seconds added onto you. That's 10%. You're adding 10% like that, and you didn't even think about it. And really, if you do that, you're basically out of the running for a top spot now.
Yeah, a lot of great stuff that we get to chew on, you know, with the regionals. But now it is time to look ahead to the games. Of course, those are fast approaching, and in the coming weeks, we will be previewing everything that's going to be happening in Carson. That's it for now for us. For Pat and Tommy, I'm Sean. We'll see you next time.